Hello there, Board Game Maniacs, and thanks for joining me in for another episode of a terrain build. Well, it is kind of terrain, but it's what's going to hold the terrain. What we're building today is going to be a 3-foot by 3-foot modular portable gaming board. That's right. Now, this modular game board that we're playing, I've seen a couple of videos and I kind of took ideas from it. I actually sold ideas from them and I kind of changed them around and I just kind of increased it a bit for my liking. And again, you don't have to follow this if you want to build a 3x3 modular board. You can follow any other thing. You can build it from your own designs. It don't matter. But the whole point is the design. You should always write it down before you do that. I'm going to show you what the designs look like in a second. And we're going to go over the build process, materials we need, and steps that I kind of cut out from recording on camera because it is a little loud and dusty and everything. So we'll go from there. So just hold on to your hats and I'll be back shortly. First thing we're talking about is the design. So when you have an idea of a build, whether it is, building terrain or whatever, or even when I'm building my masks for my Diabolic Effects company where I make the masks and props and costumes and everything, when I'm doing that, I always follow some kind of design. Customers will tell me what they would like to see, and then I would draw sketches or what have you, or sculpt a maquette or something, and then I would look at that, I would analyze it, think thoroughly about it before I even commit to creating it, because once you commit, a lot of times there's no going back. So you have to make sure that everything is as close as possible. You worked out all the wrinkles and everything before you start. So it starts off with the design process. So I have my little black book, and in here I wrote in my design. Now, I don't know if you can see that because of the lighting, but you can see it right there. And pretty much what this says, it's kind of in the shadow. You may be able to see it a little bit there. But in either case, 3x3 folding modular gaming table. When I say 3x3, that when you open it up, it's going to be 3-foot by 3-foot square. And the reason why we're making that is because a lot of my games that are like skirmish games are played on like a 3x3 surface. Like Marvel Crisis Protocol is one. And also I think Star Wars Legion is played on a 3x3, the skirmish game that is. And The Walking Dead All Out War. There's games that are played on a 3x3 surface. And a lot of the times you want to take it to your friend's house and, play some games. They don't have a gaming board. But by building a modular gaming board such as this is easy to transport, easy to take around with you. And you just set up in a couple of seconds and start playing the game, which really benefits a lot. So the designs here, the way we approach this, okay, so we need the surface where we're going to put the terrain on. So that's broken into two sections. So then I took a 3x3 square and I cut it in two, but only in half. So therefore, you're still going to get 3 feet widthwise, but lengthwise, for each piece, you're looking at 18 3/4 inches. The reason why 18 3/4 inches I did instead of just a solid 18 is because I'm framing the outside with, it's called Knotty Pine. It's a plain board, a planed board. It's very nice and smooth. It'll dress it, make it look really fancy if you want to. And it's a 1x4. So because you're looking like 3.5 to 4 inches thick for the lip, and it's 3/4 inches like the thickness of it. So because of that, I added 3/4 inches on either side of the board, and that's where I got 18 3/4. So I'm going to put a list of the materials and the sizes down in the description below so everybody is aware of it in case you want to make and duplicate this design. By all means, go crazy, because this is the whole point. This is building up the community and sharing with everybody so that we have the most fun as we can, and less time building things and more time playing and playing with friends, and that's very important. So again, I will put a list of this. So the surface again is 3-foot by 3-foot we're attempting. So it's going to be 3 feet by 18 3/4. That's 2 pieces. And I use particle board, or here in Canada we call it chipboard, even particle board they call it too as well. And the thickness of this is 5/8, I think it is. It's either 1/2 inch or 5/8 that the thickness is. The reason why I chose a thicker board, because it prevents it from warping. It's going to add a little bit more weight to the board itself when it's all done, but it'll prevent it from warping and shifting and everything. And over time, the wood will end up shrinking a little bit, but it'll shrink to the point that it's not going to be too bad. And it's going to cut down, like I said, on the warpage factor into it. That's very important. So after you get the playing surface of the 3 foot, 3 foot divided by 2, and then you add the 3/4 inch for each one, the next thing we do is we got some knotty pine wood. It's planed. I'll show you what everything looks like in a second, but it's nice and smooth. You can varnish it, you can shellac it, you can do whatever you want to it. It's got a really nice finish to it. It's pine wood, so it's meant for indoors. It's nice and strong, and again, it is 1x4, so the thickness is 3/4 inch, and the lengths are going to vary. They're going to be, the length of the board is going to be 36 inches for 2 of them at 36, and there's going to be 4 of them at 18 3/4, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we get into it. Now, that's pretty much all the wood that you really need, unless you want to go a little step further to make it more fancy, which I plan on doing, and I use which is called hardboard, and I got it at the local store, the hardware store, and it is very thin. A lot of times it's called masonite, but it's a cheaper version of masonite, very thin, but this is only to dress it up. This is not going to serve any other purpose for rigidity or stability to it. Well, but it will kind of do it a little bit, but the whole point is just to dress it up, make it look pretty when we're all done of building the board. And on top of that, we got the particle board. The next thing we have to use too as well is going to be 2 hinges. Now, my wife and I went to the hardware store looking for hinges, and there's an actual different names for hinges, which I knew, but I didn't know this type of hinge existed because of the way we are using the hinge for this. So it's going to be screwed into the 3/4 inch pine knotty board, or knotty pine wood, or whatever you want to call it. We have to use which is called a flap hinge. So usually the hinges will bend this way, and it's got the wide plate on each one. But a flap hinge, they have a smaller one, and it flips up the other way. Instead of this way, it flips up that way. And you're probably thinking, so why can't you use the normal one that flips this way and just rotate it that way? You can, but the problem is flap hinges are meant so that you can put them at different angles, so it is smaller and fitting on like the 3/4 inch width of the knotty pine board. So just be aware of that. It's flap hinges. Also we got is like a lock mechanism so that when we close the table up, we can lock it so it's not going to pop open while you're carrying it. And the final thing we picked up was a handle, so when you're carrying it, you have something to hold it with. And that's it. So I'm going to list everything down below, the materials as well as the sizes. I'm going to just set the camera up a little bit differently to show you the type of all the wood that we're using, and I'll go over the measurements and again, just so everybody is clear. And then after that, we're just going to start building. And again, these measurements, I've already went and cut them myself, well, with the help of my wife holding the wood and everything, because you can get them to cut it at your hardware store, but a lot of hardware stores will charge extra money to make cuts per cut. So I just figured I'd just cut it at home. I got the tools, and it just saved a little bit of money. And talking of money-wise, this whole build, and again, we're talking about Canadian currency because we're in Canada, is this whole gaming board build is going to cost me $50 Canadian. Under $50 Canadian. That's with the Canadian tax included too as well. And that includes everything except for when we're building like the, whatever I'm going to build for the fit inside of it for the foam and everything, like for the terrain. This is just the thing that's going to protect your terrain and make it portable. So without further ado, let's set the camera up, look at the types of wood I have. Again, I already talked about, we'll just look at a little bit more detail. And then we'll start off with the build. I just gotta look for my controller deposit. We'll be back in a second. Boo! As you can tell, we're not into the gaming studio. We're back in my shop because I just want to cut down onto the amount of dust and debris and everything that floats around both in the air as well as into the part where all the miniatures are and the painting goes on and everything, because I don't want it to get destroyed. But in either case, you can see I have some material set up here. So again, let's talk about it. So this here is your particle board or chipboard that you can see here. And the reason why they call it particle board or chipboard is because it's excess wood or garbage wood that's taken and it is glued, mixed in with the glue, and it is compressed and pressed together so that it is all, and it makes, like, it's very inexpensive. And it's nice and strong. Again, this is 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch, I think. I can't exactly remember what it was. But I kind of lucked out here because when my wife and I went to the hardware store to purchase the wood, they actually had 2 half sheets of this and it was in the scrap bin, which means that, you know, my local hardware store, they have scrap bins. After they cut wood for customers, and customers like, I don't want the rest of that, just throw it out. They put it in the scrap bin and they sell it. So I managed to get not one piece, but 2 pieces of this particle board or chipboard for $4. That's pretty inexpensive. And they were bigger than this. You're looking at, they were probably like a 3 foot by 4 foot piece each. And I just cut them down, like I said, instead of paying for them to cut it down. So that is the chipboard, particle board that I use. Now let's go on to the hardboard or masonite, whatever you want to call it. And again, this is sheets. And I bought this at the local hardware store, but I buy them in the sheets because I use this a lot for a lot of my terrain, for the basis and everything else. So because of this, this is probably like 1/8 of an inch. It's very thin, as you can see there. And on top of that, it's super flexible again, but this is only to make the final piece look pretty. You know, a sheet of this is a 4 by 9 foot sheet. And I think you get it here at my local store. I paid, I'd say about maybe $8, something like that. But again, I cut it down myself. And I cut down 2 pieces of it. And I still got extra left, so if I want to make it more prettier by putting edging on it, I can do that too as well. Now let's look at the last part of the wood needed, which is the knotty pine. And you can see how nice and smooth this is. And I already cut them down. Like I said, this here is a 1 by 4 by 6. And I bought 4 of them. I didn't need the 4, but I'd rather have more wood than not enough to have to run back to the hardware store. I ended up only using like maybe 2 1/4 pieces of this. And the price of this, each of these was $6.79, I think, for a 1 by 4 by 6 foot piece. If I'm not mistaken, the prices could be a little off, but the thing is that at time of purchase, it did cost me less than $50 Canadian, taxes included, to build this. So I got 2 sections cut for it, and then I also got 4 more sections for the edge. And again, if you've been to anybody who has like a professional gaming table, or they built their own gaming table and they put lips onto it to stop like the dice from flying over, or miniatures or terrain that they're put on, they end up putting on a lip of roughly about maybe a 1/2 inch high that's circumferenced around the table. But this here, where it's only a 3 by 4, it's actually going to be like 3.5 inches high for the lip. So it's going to be nice and high. You can put other terrain onto it. You can do a lot of things with that. And it should work out perfectly fine, hopefully, but we'll see. And materials we need is, you know, just common things. Like a carpenter square is a really good idea. I got to hold that in camera frame. Carpenter square is good. You know, some X-Acto knives in case you need them. Markers, drill bits, drills, and screws. And, you know, PVA glue and everything else, just odds and ends here and there. And that's pretty much it. I gotta grab my remote here. So that is the material used. Look at the list, see what the sizes, the approximate sizes are for a 3 by 3 table. And also too as well, I forgot, I bought some hinges. And again, these are the back flap hinges. So let me, you can't see it because it's dark, but back flap hinges, and there's 2 in a pack. These are still a little wide for the board, but these are the smallest I was able to find. So what I may have to do is just drill an extra hole into the hinge just to be able to mount it better, but we'll see. We'll make this work somehow. And I also got the lasp to hold the gaming table together. Now this is like where you can put a lock on it and lock it, or you can do it just hooking a piece of wood or something so it don't pop open. We'll see that as the build goes on. And last but not least is just a cheap little handle. And the handle, you just grab it to carry your board around. Pretty simple. So let's get on with the build. Pieces of the chipboard, I just have it laying onto my sink where I empty out my molds and clean them. Mixes a good bench too as well, just to let you know. But the chipboard is here, and what I went and did first off is I took a pencil and a piece of the knotty pine that is already cut, and I laid it and made it flush onto the edge, there we go. And I took a pencil and I traced it here, and I did it also on the other edge. and I took the long piece and I traced it here. And the reason why I did that is so that when I'm screwing the screws and I know the thickness of the board, and I can place a screw roughly in the middle and screw down. Pretty simple. So the way this here is going to be done is you set up the pieces of wood that you're using, like so. I'll show you. I'll zoom out here just so everybody can see better in a moment. Just laying them on gently here. That's good enough. Let's zoom out here. So you can see, now, this is going to be the way it's built. So I'm going to duplicate this with the other piece of the chipboard, and we're just screwing it in here so that it holds it and it's not, it's going to be rigid. I'm going to screw in on each side, but I'm not putting a piece of wood here because this here is the middle of the board. So the hinges are going to be screwed from this one and that one, where it's going to just like a suitcase and fold up, and it's going to close. Now it's going to be a little wide. You're going to look at it's going to be about this thick when it's all done. But again, the reason why you don't have to use 1x4s, you can make it smaller. You can use 1x3s or 1x2s. It's up to you. But I want this lip because I want this is going to be a multi-purpose portable gaming table. So I'm going to build like some kind of scenery in here that's going to be permanent, but it's going to be so low so that I can take other tiles that I make, like 1x1 tiles, and I can situate them in here if I'm going to play a different game. So I want it to be a multi-purpose, but you can design it so it can be just like meant just to play Walking Dead All Out War onto it, or Call to Arms, or Marvel Crisis Protocol. You could do whatever you want. But again, I'm doing this so it's going to be a multi-facet gaming table. Hiccups again. Here we go. Just like as always. So I'm not going to bore you by recording drilling in the holes and putting the screws in, because it's very simple. There's nothing difficult about doing that. I'm just going to do that, and then when this is all done, I'll be back and I'll show you what each piece looks like before we fasten the screws or the hinges onto it, and we're going to move on from there. So just hang on and I'll be back only momentarily, but it may take about 20 minutes in real time. There you see we have it all, the sides screwed on, and it is separate. You can separate it like that. So what my plans are for this now, it's looking uneven because it's sitting on top of the laundry tub, or the tub that I wash my molds in. But anyhow, if you look closely, because of the measurements and everything, from inside to inside on this is 3 feet. And also from inside to inside is 3 feet. So there is your playing surface of 3 feet. And we also have a lip of 4 inches in total. Well, actually it's 3.5 inches because that's 1/2 inch chipboard too as well. So all we're going to do now is we're going to attach the hinges on this corner and that to the two of them so that this can be opened and closed. So in essence, what's going to happen in the end is this is going to be able to close just like so. And the handle is going to be on this side so you can carry it. This is going to be open, but the thing is you don't want to store any terrain inside here while you're transporting it because it's hollow. You can do something to temporarily like make an end cap or something so this will not, nothing will come out if you want to carry it, but that's not my concern. I want to leave this open. There's going to be foam because I'm going to make this so that you can add to it on top of what's already existing. But that's it. So the next step which I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the hinges on to, have to sit on the floor to make sure it's level, but I'm going to put the hinges just like so right here and on this side too as well. Whoop, whoop. And when I get the hinges screwed in place, we'll be back and I'll show you what the suitcase looks like. Well, it kind of reminds me of a suitcase, but all in all, what it is simply, it's a modular 3x3 gaming surface that is portable. So we'll be back after I put the hinges on because I don't want to have to show you. I already showed you what the hinges look like. I don't want to bore you with, you know, like, oh, I got to do that, because plus the noise with the drill and everything else, I just want to try to avoid any excess noise into the video. So hold on, I'll be back shortly. Whew, that was a little bit of work, and what I mean by a little bit of work was I put the hinges on You can see there, it's kind of a wide shot, but I just wanted to show the whole thing. But again, these hinges were the only ones that I could find, and they stuck out by maybe like 1/8 of an inch. So they were a little big. So what I did is I took the hacksaw. My hacksaw, I didn't have any other hacksaw blade, so it was dull. I had to get my wife to come and hold this while I hacksawed it, and I just kind of cut the hinges at an angle so that, and then I grinded them down just a little bit with my sanding paper, or sanded them down a bit just so that they wouldn't be rough. But this is it. It is 3 feet by 3 feet. It's together. There's no gap here. This is very, very important to do. So when you're doing this, you want to put it on as much of a level surface as you can when you're screwing down the hinges. Now, I put this on top of the off of the sink, and I put it on the top of the washer. My space here is kind of limited, yes, I know, but it made it nice and flush, so I was able to screw them down. Now it's kind of coming together a lot better, because you can see now is you got your game board, your gaming surface, and you close it up, whoa, just like that. Pretty fancy dancy. I'm going to move the camera a little bit just so that you can see it a little better. Really fancy. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to apply the handle and the lasp on top here, just so it's going to be hold it together closed, so when I'm walking around with it, it's closed. It's going to be pretty simple. So after this part is done, the next thing we're going to do when we come back is I'll show you about making this a little bit more pretty. Now, I could have skipped a step by, instead of getting the chipboard, by getting actual like planed plywood where it's nice and smooth, and then you wouldn't have to do that. But the thing is when we went into the hardware store and we seen this chipboard, and it was so inexpensive, $4 for the 2 pieces. I'm like, you know what? I'll just cover it over with the masonite to make it look pretty, and that way it saves me a couple of dollars. But you don't have to do that. You could go all plywood if you want, like 1/2 inch plywood. I wouldn't go any more than 1/2 inch because it's going to get a little bit more heavy by going any thicker wood. So therefore, that's it. So again, I'm just going to put my handle on top and my lasp. Nothing you have to watch because it's very simple. And when I'm done with that, I'll be back and I'll show you what it looks like. You can see there, I got the handle onto it and the lasp. Now the lasp that I do have there though, is one that I can put a lock on if I had to, but there's a hollow underneath. Unless I make an end cap, then you could lock it up and you could stop from, you know, like an anti-theft thing, or you can just put a piece of wood there. It don't really matter. This is just to hold this closed. And now we're going to do the lift test. So let's zoom up for that and see how it works. Here goes the lift test. All right. Super light, like it is not heavy at all. Yeah, that pretty much concludes it. The only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go outside, and I am, actually before I go outside, we have to put the stuff to make it look pretty, which is just using the hardboard on the smooth side. We're going to screw that in place, and when that's all done, we'll be back, because I'm going to screw it on, and then I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to paint it black, obviously, because my favorite color is black, but some people debate that black is a color. Now that's a different discussion. But after that's done, we'll be back and I'll show you what it all completely looks like when it's completely final. Awesome. There you go, Board Game Maniacs. This completes the first video for this 3x3 modular gaming table. Portable, modular, whatever you want to call it. It's a gaming table that you can take with you. And I did some stain on the pine, as you can see there. Just shift that over a little bit so you can see the stain on the pine. It's still kind of wet, but just gotta let that dry. Painted this all black after I put on to make it fancy and pretty looking. We put on the, what you call it, the hardboard on both sides. And my wife, she uses her Cricut, and she made a vinyl Board Game Maniacs logo. I don't know if you can see that or not, or if it's too dark because the lighting in my workshop is not set actually for video, for recording videos. I'd have to pump more light into it. But in either case, this is what it looks like. Hope you enjoyed this build. Hope it inspired you and made you want to make your own 3x3 or 4x6. Because just because this is a 3x3, it's not like you can't incorporate and make it a 4x6 modular gaming table. It'd be kind of hard to carry, but it could definitely be possible. Maybe 2 straps, 2 handles on it so 2 people can carry it. but it definitely is possible. There's always possibilities for no matter what. So join me for the next video where we are going to start building terrain for inside, or a scene. I just touched that. For a scene inside of this, so that it's going to be one that is, again, glued down to it, so it's going to be a permanent one. But we're going to have, because we used the knotty pine, which was a 1x4, which gave me 3.5 inches. The scene I'm building is maybe going to be an inch thick, and then we can build modular tiles, which I'm going to do eventually, so I can put it on top of that, so we have more versatility of what games we want to play. Like we could play Fallout Wasteland Warfare onto it. We could play Test of Honor. We could play like a small bolt action game if we really wanted to. Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Imperial Assault. So there's so many things that we can do with this modular game board. It opens up your mind. Then I'm thinking already in my head that I'm going to make a 4x6 one that has detachable legs or what have you, so we could just take it wherever and make it super light. It could be another video in the future, who knows? But in any case, hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, comment down below, let me know if you made one. I'm sure there's designs on the internet for a whole bunch of these types of modular gaming boards. Again, I've took ideas from videos from here, there, and everywhere, and I kind of combined them all together and made it my own, because that's what we do here at Board Game Maniacs. We are maniacs, and we just think like a maniac, and hopefully this is going to inspire you. So until next time, Board Game Maniacs, have fun, build some modular games, play some games, talk to people, and if this COVID-19 is still going on, please, by all means, just be safe. And even if it's not going on, be safe. Think first before you act, because it can save a lot of headaches and a lot of pain and anything else. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm starting to ramble on. Anyhow, you know what I'm going to say, closing thing, and that is, be a maniac. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Boo.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to keep up to date with Board Game Maniacs, click on the like and subscribe button to be notified when more videos come available. If you want to become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs, go to patreon.com/BoardGameManiacs. Or you can go to streamlabs.com/BoardGameManiacs1. That's right, and you can donate to help keep the lights on, keep food in our bellies, and play more games. We'll purchase more games, more equipment to make Board Game Maniacs evolve and get bigger and larger because of you, the viewers. I thank you from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head for all of your support. And until next time, Board Game Maniacs, be a maniac.